Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast. Introducing your host for this evening first. He is the host with the most from the West Coast, the Bay Area Brawler, Greenberg. And his partner, he has colonized, energized, and revolutionized the podcasting wrestling world today. Your Colonial Champion, Cody. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Court-Martail Podcast, the podcast made for smarks and wrestling fans alike. We are not going to be exclusive to the smart community, even though that is where we got our base. We are an all-expanding podcast, ladies and gentlemen, the hottest pro wrestling podcast in all of YouTube. I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, here today to talk about some great restorative therapy that one man has created to help both those in the business and outside alike. We're going to talk about a match that has him in it where he is tremendous and the other person is there. We're going to talk about how and why most of these wrestlers need that physical repair on their bodies and the toll of therein. And of course, we've got the news, and of course, we've got the fallout of Double or Nothing, which we will get a recap of. But I am not here to do it alone, because we used to do that and it got no views. And now that there are so many more of you, I couldn't possibly leave this man out, because he is the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He is the Bay Area Brawler himself, Mr. Skylar Greenberg. How you doing, buddy?
And all it took to get me on the podcast was to ask him! Ask him!
Come on! So how's your week been? You know, it was Tuesday, it was Memorial Day when we recorded or released last time, so it's been about a week. How have you been?
Well, thankfully, I didn't have to take a shit, aka watch whatever the hell that pay-per-view was.
Yeah, me neither. I've heard 2 recaps so far, and I am really glad that we've disavowed modern wrestling.
But there's somebody who is a glutton for punishment, somebody who is watching modern wrestling, whether he should or shouldn't. It's JoshAgeddon with his notes of the week.
Roll it!
It's time for JoshAgeddon's notes of the week. It's time for his notes of the week. Oh, yeah.
All right, once again, ladies and gentlefish, I'm not saying it the way that you wrote it, I come to you bearing a tidings of middle-of-the-road joy in the form of my thoughts on AEW's latest 48-day-long premium live event, Double or Nothing 2022. All in all, this show is about as AEW can AEW. For good and for worse is not a sentence. Also, right off the bat, 12 matches is too goddamn long. Chillax, AEW, chillax. For fuck's sake is not a sentence. And no, me no watch buy in, so fuck you. Also,
hold on 1 second. So let me get this straight, okay? You're the AEW fan, Joshua, and you're not even going to watch the buy-in?
I don't think that's more indictment of AEW. I think that's more just he does not watch pre-shows. That's not necessarily specific to AEW, because he doesn't watch WWE pre-shows either.
Yeah, I mean, last time you made me watch the pre-show for no reason.
Yeah. Well, sometimes there's good stuff on it. Sometimes there's not. And actually, at this point, the buy-in, just so everybody knows, did not have any matches on it. So
I thought it did.
No, they had no matches on it, because they crammed everything into the main show.
Nope, there was a match.
Not of consequence.
Well, do you want me to say what the match was?
Is it going to be people I care about?
Formerly one of them.
Okay, fine. Who was it?
Hookhausen, a.k.a. Hook and Danhausen, versus Tony Nese and Mark Sterling.
Right. Anyway, so we're going on to the main show, I'm sorry, Hook, but you've housened your way out of my talking about you. And that's just, it's more Tony Khan that I just don't want to get into because, honestly, I'm starting to hate Tony Khan more than I hate Ronda Rousey.
Well, we're going to get into him a lot today, so
yes.
whatever.
So get ready, folks, because it's going to be an AEW blast, which must mean we're bots, Sky. Because, of course, it's the bots that don't like AEW. It's not actual people.
Oh, of course it's the robot.
Yes, yeah, that's why I love Justin Roberts. Wink. Now, also, I counted the number of collar and elbow tie-ups. We were 7 out of 12 on the night. I find that hard to believe.
Bullshit.
I find that hard to
Bullshit.
believe. Okay, here we go. Deep breath, sphincter tightened. And what we'll do, Sky, is we'll do his little abbreviation of the match. We'll get comments, and then we'll just keep going. So here we go. Match 1. MJF versus Wardlow. Excellent way to kick off the show. MJF basically ran from Wardlow for as long as he could, but he eventually got caught by this big, beefy boy. Best part of the match was when MJF faked an injury and tried to sneak on the diamond ring behind the ref's back, but was caught by the ref who just took the ring from him, leading to MJF getting powerbombed 10 times. Jesus. Wardlow looks like $1 million and MJF put him over strong. Good shit. And I have a feeling this is the only match I really would have loved on the show.
So basically, this is the match that you would have watched and then skip the rest of the show.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would have been kind of interested in Punk versus Page, but I would probably just go back and watch it on another day individually rather than stick through the entire slop in between.
Not a 4.5-hour show.
Yeah, no. And again, it's mostly filler, and I said that from the start. And if I want filler, then I'm just going to go eat a whole tub of frosting.
Well, speaking of filler, what's the next match?
Match 2, oh boy. The Hardy Boys versus the Young Bucks. CMP's favorite tag team. Okay, this match was just fine. There weren't 8 trillion moves in this match. Later matches would be far more guilty of this AEW-ism. But it still went too long. Also, water is wet. Also, Jeff got his bell rung during the match and looked very out of it for the entire second half of the match. Hope Jeff is okay. The Hardys won, which is fine by me. I also heard that Matt and Jeff looked absolutely terrible.
Especially Jeff, because he's been injured since the Darby Allin match.
Yeah.
And he's been trying to nurse it.
Well, this is, I just don't know what to say about the Hardys at this point. Like, they had an opportunity, and they were like, no, we're probably just not going to do anything with them. And
we're going to make a shit ton of money on our nostalgia name, and that's it.
Yeah, for like 2 matches. To the point where I don't think people even cared about this match. When this could have been an actual selling point for the pay-per-view.
Like, think about the Young Bucks and FTR match got. You have the Hardys, one of the tag teams that the Young Bucks legitimately idolizes and steals all their moves from.
Steals most of their moves from. But the Young Bucks steal moves from everybody, though. They're the epitome they're the epitome of Jim Cornette's whole theory of steal from many instead of one, because then it's research instead of plagiarism.
Yes, but I feel like the Young Bucks emulate the Hardys the most.
Yeah, I mean, that's really how they got their name, was doing Hardy-esque matches, but to way less psychology to them.
Yeah.
Well, that's that. Match 3, Jade Cardiff Wales. That's good.
Okay.
That's good. I like that. Versus Anna Jay for the Tuberculosis Championship.
Oh, really?
Christ, this match sucked more ass than Skylar does. Which is
Fuck you, Joshua.
Which is unfathomable.
Fuck you.
The structure was wonky, Jada is green, and Anna Jay was just utterly horrendous. Especially the finish, my god. Jade goes for the top rope glam slam, and you know how it's sometimes... And you know how sometimes to make a finisher look believable, the person taking the move has to look dazed and out of it? Well, Anna Jay looked 100% alert and didn't even try to fight out of it. In fact, she was obviously just getting into position. It was so painfully contrived and fake looking. Bad. I'm not surprised. You got to get Jade Cargill in with some people who actually know how to work. Please.
I mean, that's pretty much the entirety of my division's upper half, so that's
there
not
you
the
go.
part I'm concerned about.
There you go, Sky. You got the roster for the women. AEW doesn't really. Match number 4.
And that's the thing is that if you look at the women's division, Serena Deeb, Thunder Rosa, Toni Storm, Dr. Britt Baker, do you trust anybody else?
It's kind of hard to say. It's hard to say. Yeah, it's not really. Well,
whatever. What's the next one?
Yeah, match 4. Huge, unnecessary multi-man match, 1 of 50. It is the House of Black versus the Death Triangle. One of the main reasons why this show was so fucking insufferably long is because, which is substandard usage of that phrase, there were 4 fucking huge multi-man tags on it. Holy shit. And it wouldn't be so bad if these matches weren't all the same. Feel you. 1,000 moves per second, quintillions of dives, you name it. It just makes your eyes glaze over after a while. I mean, Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews looked great, but I just didn't care. This is one AEWism I'm quickly getting sick of. House of Black wins because some random blonde chick joined the group. Don't care. Next.
That would be Julia Hart.
Yes, it was.
And they're doing that gimmick of she has an eye patch and it's devouring her soul.
Yeah. She should have an eye patch and a peg leg, and she should just be Julia Hart the Pirate.
Well, what it is that Malachi Black spit black mist into her eyes, and then she became dark and troubled. It feels like Alexa Bliss all over again.
Well, Alexa Bliss with worse actors doing it. Yeah, at least Alexa Bliss at least she owned the role. This is just blah. It's just bad, man. And Edge's group is making a mockery out of it.
And think about this for a second. This is the type of match that AEW is trying to advocate the reason why there should be a trios tag team championship.
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's get more belts.
Yeah, more belts. And speaking of belts, we have the Owen Hart tournament finals. Match 5, Samoa Joe versus Dr. Britt Baker's boyfriend.
You have to remember that there's a male and a female trophy.
Yep.
A gimmick on a gimmick or a hat on a hat.
Yep. And this match was actually really good. Only went about 12 minutes, not 84 bazillion pile drivers, just basic stuff. This match was stiff too. The complaint you guys have about modern WWE being too sterile, well, this match was actually pretty intense, mostly thanks to Joe. Note the lack of surprise. And then the part that I don't like, Britt's boyfriend wins. Why would you do this to Samoa fucking Joe?
Because Adam Cole is the newest Young Buck.
Because Tony Khan is a fucking idiot. And
Adam Cole is the newest Young Buck.
Yeah, and he's neither young nor a buck nor interesting to look at anymore. He used to be.
Think though, like 3 years ago, you would have said Adam Cole versus Samoa Joe in a tournament final. Sign me up.
Yeah, Adam Cole used to be can't miss, and now he's can't watch, and that's really sad. Match 6, speaking of, Dr. Britt Baker versus Ruby Sucks My Asshole. Ruby Shitstain has such palpable go-away heat with me, it's unreal. Her look, her personality, her in-ring, all massive negatives. That said, this was actually a pretty decent match, mostly because of Britt. But then Ruby put on the worst sharpshooter I've ever seen in my life. Owen Hart was looking down on this and either laughing or crying. Thankfully, Britt won shortly after that failed abortion of a submission hold. Thanks, Owen. Never forget.
And think about this. Adam Cole and Dr. Britt Baker accepted the trophies together at the same time because
AEW steals my character development.
and Dr. Britt Baker is actually bigger when you look at the two of them.
I
next to each
know.
other.
Yeah, and you wonder why she's the top of those two when they're in ACPW. Another one I called. My royalty check better be in the mail, AEW. Match 7, another pointless trios match. American Top Team versus Sammy Guevara, Ty Conti, a Brazilian model, and Frankie Kazarian. Like every AEW match, this match went 2 times as long as it should have. This company has a fucking boner for needlessly long tag matches with 70 people. And dear God, there were so many backslap tags, my fucking eyes, my fucking soul. Sean, you must never watch this match or you will cry. Also, Scorpio Sky is the TNT champion. Good to see that they're taking that secondary belt seriously. American Top Team 1, don't care.
Is the TNT Championship the least prestigious title in AEW?
Well, it wasn't that way when Cody held it. Just saying. Just saying.
I mean, this feud with Sammy Guevara has not helped either of them, if anything, it set both of them back.
Sammy's been around the belt for too long. First of all, Sammy has been around that TNT Championship since Cody was there. And realistically speaking, I think that it's at a point where he just needs to not be a part of the TNT title anymore. Do something else. Feud with somebody else. There's no reason to be involved with this. Go be a heel with Ty Conti, which people have this weird fascination with. So I'm not going to knock that. But at the same time, I don't think that Sammy synonymous with the TNT title has helped Scorpio Sky feel any more important. I don't think you can make Scorpio Sky feel any more important.
He's the token black guy.
Yeah, kinda.
He's still the token black guy. That's all he is.
Yeah. Well, match 8. Kyle O'Reilly versus Darby Allin.
By the way, do I have better audio now?
Yeah, man, I'm glad you got out of that astronaut's helmet.
I got out of the fish tank because I was like, no, I'm not doing the fish tank no more.
We all got to go to Space Mountain from time to time, but not with Ric Flair. Match 8. Kyle O'Reilly versus Darby Allin. This match was more stiff than Joe versus Britt's boyfriend. Shit, dude, it opened with Darby trying to shoot in for a takedown on Kyle, only to get a swift knee to the kisser, causing Darby to visibly bleed from the mouth. And then Darby almost died off a botched suicide dive. That's not a surprise. Oops. Kyle won with a diving knee to the back. Good, brutal match that only went about 9 minutes. The shorter the better with AEW. Have you noticed?
Well, shorter doesn't always mean better because look at Jade Cargill versus Anna Jay.
Well, I guess that's true. But when it comes to people who know how to work, shorter usually has a better effect.
It's having shorter matches with people that know how to work.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of people who know how to work, match 9, Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deeb for the AEW Women's Championship. This match fucking ruled. No joke, this match stole the show and showed up every other women's match this year. Completely stole the show, and both competitors looked fantastic, and the crowd was into this match from start to finish. And the finish was great. Sean and Skylar, definitely go and watch this match. You will not be disappointed. That's high praise. That's pretty high praise.
Do we have to go back and watch this match?
What? I'll tell you what, Sky. How about I will go and find this legally on a legal channel and rewatch it. Maybe wherever their broadcasting networks were. Maybe they will have a replay. I will go find this match and I will live stream my reaction to it. And if it's great, I will let you know. And then we can discuss it next week.
Okay.
So, That's something you can look forward to, folks. So it's possible we will have a Thunder Rosa Serena Deeb AEW Women's Title review next week on the show. But the only way you're going to know is to like, is to share, is to subscribe, and to hit that bell button so that you know the second we drop is the second you find out. Match 10.
But here's
go ahead.
the thing, though. If you include the dark match, that's the 10th match of the show, and that's 3 hours into the show, and you still have another 3 matches to go.
Yeah, and at least we're not going to watch the whole show. We'll just watch that match.
No, but think about this for a second. The next match, I think, was a cinematic 23-minute 10-man match.
Match 10. He wrote in all caps, "Can this show end already? Another huge multi-person tag. My brain hurts. Please help me. Jericho Appreciation Society versus Blackpool Combat Club." Not even joking.
No, that's...
Oh, go ahead.
It's 10 men: Chris Jericho, Daniel Garcia, Jake Hager, Angelo Parker, and Matt Menard versus Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz.
Ready to hear what he said?
Sure.
Not even joking. I skipped this match. I'm over the giant multi-person no DQ mindless crowd brawls of doom and destruction that are on every AEW pay-per-view. They are all identical. They all involve Chris Jericho. Stop doing these matches.
The only way you're going to get Chris Jericho to stop doing these matches is to literally take off one of his legs.
Do you think that Jericho at this point has go-away heat with most of AEW's fans?
Do the fans matter?
Well, to Tony they matter, but not any ones they're trying to bring in, just the ones they have. Because I feel like the Bucks are starting to get it.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing, is that all the AEW original people, the people that were there at the beginning, are starting to get the whole thing of, you've been here for a while. We have new and exciting and shiny toys coming in every once in a while. We want you to do something else.
Yeah.
Like, Jericho has been in charge of a stable for 3 years in different forms, in different ways, with different people, but it's the same shit.
He should go take over AEW Dark and run that forever.
Well, Chris Jericho is so fat, the darkness is because you're inside of Chris Jericho's belly button.
Chris Jericho is so fat he ate all the Heartless, and it didn't matter. Anyway.
Chris Jericho is so fat, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat couldn't put him in a figure 4 leg lock.
That's right, it was Jericho's fault. Jericho's thighs were too big. That's why he couldn't hit it, and it's not at all that Ricky forgot how to do it.
And then when they got backstage, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat asked him why he didn't lose any weight.
Nope, he didn't. He went to KFC and cried. Match 11. Match 11. I will have another 2-piece, in fact. Match 11. Another fucking huge multi-person tag. Please end my suffering. 3-way tag for the AEW Tag Team Championships. And no, I'm not naming everyone. I'm too tired. Amazing. This is what AEW does to people. It literally just grinds you down. This was basically the same as the trios match earlier. 110 tetra-trillion, good use, moves, a gazillion backslap tags, chaos and anarchy, and not in a fun way, in a spastic brain-melting way. Jurassic Express win? Don't care. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with regular tag matches? I don't know. JoshAgeddon. I would love to know what is wrong with regular tag matches. Because regular tag matches... Well, but the problem is, regular tag, nobody knows how to do a real regular tag match except FTR nowadays. That's the truth. So it's like, what's so wrong with regular tag matches? Well, who on this show could do a good regular tag match?
FTR, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson.
CM Punk isn't a tag team, though. I mean like a tag team. Like, who in a proper tag team could have a good tag team match?
FTR and Matt and Jeff Hardy? Question mark?
I don't know about Matt and Jeff anymore, though, now. I would say that Fish and O'Reilly probably could, but God, they're just caught up with all of the Young Bucks and Cole's bullshit.
AEW's roster is so big now. I'm waiting for it to start hemorrhaging and just like. At this point, I'm surprised you don't have. Well, okay. They have Dynamite, Dark, Elevation, Rampage, ROH. Shit.
Yeah. And for a roster that huge, you have a roster so thin.
I mean, it's not that they don't have enough people. It's that they don't have enough good people.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to fire 75% of the AEW roster and keep the very, very best people around,
you'd have a
you
good
could
roster.
have a good wrestling company.
Yeah. I've said that from the start with AEW too. They have a terrific 2.5-hour show with a great roster, but 2/3 of what they give us is unnecessary filler in both talent and in show length. And it's just, they're not getting it because they're trying to lengthen everything out, just like WWE does. Well, we got a main event. Match 12. Adam Page versus CM Punk.
Adam, we want Adam. Clap, clap, clap.
I bet they do. Another really good match that the crowd was frothing at the mouth over. Both guys looked great, awesome selling, and they even teased a Hangman Page heel turn, but Punk won in the end with a GTS. Not as good as the women's title match, but definitely the second best match of the night. Also great to see Punk as the AEW World Champion, even though he can't do the buckshot lariat without landing flat in his ass to save his life. The overall thoughts. Man, this was a long show to sit through. If you cut out all octillion multi-man tag matches, you have a banger show that was easy to watch. Maybe 9 or 10 out of 10. But no. My fucking eyes glazed over so hard during these fucking tags that my spine slid out of my asshole and I'm still looking for it as I type. With that in mind, this show gets a 5 out of 10 from me. Good stuff on here, but buried 10 feet beneath the earth in filler. Now where is me spine? It's in Andy. Now, here's the thing. Skylar, what do you think? If his grade was a 5 out of 10, what do you think our grade would have been on the show? Just a guess. What do you think your grade would have been?
A 1 or a 2.
Yeah, I'm guessing probably like 2.5 at best. I have a feeling that I would just want to rip every single thing apart and just dissect it second for second, minute for minute, and then cry, and then drink, and then cry myself to sleep. And thankfully, I'd wake up to the siren sounds of the news, which is where we're headed in this podcast. Roll it! Coming straight to you from the Golden Gate Garage, this is the WrestleNews with Skylar Green.
Well, the thing is that we're doing the news, but the news involves AEW.
Segways!
Well, anyways, hello everybody. Welcome to the news of the week with me, the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Green. We got your sirs. Are you ready to begin?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty, so we're going to talk about this pay-per-view more because we have to talk about this pay-per-view more because there's more shit that happened after the show that we found out.
There was quite a lot of events that took place surrounding Double or Nothing. Where,
Yep.
Because that's what MJF's looking for.
Yep. Now, MJF, actually, we're going to leave him out for a second because there's other things that happen that we need to talk about.
Yeah, we'll come back to him as kind of our main event of the news, I think.
Yep. Now, here's my thing. Did you hear the post-media scrum of this thing?
I didn't watch all of it, but I heard quite a lot of footage, quite a few clips from it. And, oh man.
First off, I want to know, how long was this thing?
An hour? Hour and a half?
I think it was at least 2.
It was forever. I don't know how these people stayed up for all of this. I know they were in Vegas, so obviously you got to factor that in a little bit. But like, even still.
But that's another thing too with AEW. It's just like, yes, the show is on the West Coast in Vegas, but you are basically disregarding the entirety of the East Coast by having your main event go on at 10 or 11 p.m. Eastern time.
It was 12:45 when the show ended the next day on the East Coast. That's not including the media scrum.
So literally, if you are a fan in New York or Florida or anywhere, Washington, D.C., anywhere on the East Coast, anywhere in the Central Time Zone, anywhere in the Rocky Mountain Time Zone, it is late as hell.
Good strategy, Tony.
And he did it on a Sunday. If you could do it on a Saturday, you could at least make the argument that with it being on Saturday, you can watch it into Sunday and people have a day to recover. You're doing it on Sunday. Only the most diehard of diehard fans on the East Coast would have been watching this game.
No, but that's all that Tony cares about, though. He only cares about those fans to begin with.
But if those fans start to revolt saying, I don't want to watch a show this late.
Yeah, I agree. Tony is always one bad decision away from alienating the core fan base that he relies so heavily upon.
Exactly. It's just like, what the fuck is wrong with each and every single one of you?
Well, it's more like what is Tony consuming prior to making appearances and decisions.
Like, he doesn't look like he shaves. He looks like he wears mama's sweater. His eyes are just darting in and out. And the way he talks, this is worse than Herb Abrams.
Well, Herb Abrams was Coke, and definitively Coke. I don't think it's Coke with Tony. I think Tony is on some high-level, high-market uppers that may or may not be related to Adderall. I'm not saying it is Adderall, but it may or may not be related to Adderall. That's my guess. But he's taking a fuck ton of it. And he's going out there. I mean, some of the stuff he said, you can't even read the quote because it's like, it's longer than our podcast.
We'll try to go as long as it is. But anyways, here's the thing. There was the scrum session he did with CM Punk first. And these media questions from Brian Alvarez or Dave Meltzer or other people that were part there, I just like.
Why don't you just bend over and why don't you just have them bend over and you just lick their assholes while you're at it, Meltzer and Alvarez? I mean, those questions were like, so, you know that we're sniffing your jockstrap, right? Well, what would happen if we touched it? And
you know, recently I had the pleasure of sucking your dick, and I was wondering if I could do that again.
I was wondering, what made it taste like pineapple? Anyway, that's... No, seriously, folks, go and listen. It is the most, like, suck-up-ish questions. Like, this is such a mockery of media. And like, it's literally a mock press conference. These people are there literally like they were talking heads on a WWE documentary. They were all just... They were Bruce Pritchards with notepads and online articles.
That shit that broke me.
It did break you.
Anyways, yeah, a lot of these questions are stupid. And what are the questions that were being asked? Something about Eric Bischoff, the length of the show, the quality of the show, and Tony Khan answering questions, and CM Punk's sitting there doing his best to try and remain professional, like in like a sports thing, like an athlete, and Tony Khan over there like a Make-A-Wish kid.
Tony went off about that question about Eric Bischoff. Punk was like, yeah, he should be buried underneath the prison. And Tony's like, he went on a full-fledged rant that he could not stop. It was pretty intense. I implore you all to just find that. If anything else, find the one spot where Tony Khan just unhinged like Alien and went after Eric Bischoff after Bischoff's statement that Punk was the worst draw in modern history.
Right, and then there's the Chris Jericho thing, which and Chris Jericho talking about his push and how he has always reinvented himself. Like, and Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, you are part of the problem too, because you're not even hiding the fact that wrestling is fake. Like, yes, we know wrestling is fake, but at least pretend kayfabe is still there.
They can't because they've made too much money breaking it.
Clearly,
That's their whole deal. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not really enjoying everything. I'm listening to this stuff. It gives me cancer.
It just further proves that our decision to not endorse Tony Khan as a promoter and not endorse, even though we really like a lot of the people on that show, I don't think that Tony is worth the investment of finance or time until he can get his shit straight, which I just don't think he's going to be able to do. I think he's going to fuck this up. I'm more confident that he's going to fuck up AEW and it'll be off the air in 2 to 3 years, tops. More than I think that Tony Khan is going to shape up and just keep the right talent on and book properly and get people over and really acquire ratings of significance. I more predict his failure than I foresee his success.
Right. And it's one of those things where he's doing things to piss off talent. Like for example, let's talk about Thunder Rosa for a second. You're AEW Women's World Champion, right?
Yep.
Do you know anything about her feud with Serena Deeb?
No, I have not been paying attention, admittedly.
But that's the thing, is that there has been nothing about that feud because they got very little promo time and build-up time to the matches. And then they had the match, which arguably may have been the best match of the pay-per-view, best wrestling match on the pay-per-view.
We'll find out soon enough.
And then, do you want to know what happens on the Dynamite after?
Please elucidate for me.
She doesn't appear at all, and she's the only champion that did not appear at all on the Dynamite after.
Yeah, I don't believe, and I never believed that Tony could competently book men's wrestling, let alone women's wrestling. And because Omega's in that mix, or at least he was, I don't know if he's involved in the booking of that anymore.
He still is, because he's the one that brought Maki Ito over.
Yeah. And who's back, right? She just made her return for Forbidden Door.
For the Owen Hart thing.
Right. Glad we did that. Well,
but again, that's the whole thing, is that it's an indictment on their women's division that they have to bring back Maki Ito, the girl who loves piss and shit.
It's not even the women's division that's at fault here. It's the way that it's been produced. It's the way that it's been presented. It's the same problems that we have with WWE, except that the problems are incompetence in a different way, as opposed to ignorance in the WWE way.
Right. Well, let's continue, shall we? Jeff Hardy has been seriously banged up ever since the match with Darby Allin. Now, I have not watched that match. I don't think you have either, right?
I did not.
But from what I heard, Jeff Hardy has been banged up by the ever since that Darby Allin match. And Matt Hardy, in talking about the match, talked about what happened with him versus the Young Bucks and the situation about being knocked out. Let me go ahead and get the quote. Are you ready?
Please do.
Yeah, I was happy with the match at Double or Nothing, especially considering very early on in the match, Jeff was almost knocked out. So he got hurt pretty bad. That's why he's being pulled from the match in Los Angeles. Obviously, so he was kind of running on fumes going for the match. He still had up his end of the bargain in the big scheme of things.
Well, I hope Jeff gets better.
But do you want to know how bad it was?
Let's hear how bad it was.
Matt Hardy continues. We have a couple of ideas, but we're not sure where Jeff got hurt, and he has no recollection. Like, he doesn't remember the match at all after that happened. So thank God the Young Bucks are the Young Bucks, and I'm me. Wow. Yeah,
the epitome of safety and quality. Matt Hardy and the Young Bucks.
Let's continue.
Way to hold it down.
He was literally just a vessel being given directions throughout this match to kind of do what he was supposed to do. So considering he really got knocked loopy terribly at some point earlier in the match, he still did pretty good to go through and do everything he did. It's so funny that he's still just such a great athlete and so good at what he does. If you look at the swanton he does on the stairs, he still does it like perfectly. And he didn't realize he was supposed to do it until he was told he was supposed to do it.
That's just kind of dangerous, don't you think? I mean, it's great that you all did the match, but like, it's kind of dangerous, don't you think?
It's kind of stupid because, again, we're talking about Matt Hardy, who had his own concussion thing against Sammy Guevara in a situation where he hit the concrete with the back of his head.
Yeah, I remember that.
And was knocked loopy.
Yep.
And the match was allowed to continue to get to the finish. Jeff Hardy, who has had millions of miles on his body, gets knocked loopy. They don't call the match. They proceed to just continue and finish it. Like, if Jeff Hardy was knocked out legitimately, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You're putting the health and safety and the future of these guys at risk. Like, there is a chance. I don't want to go into it, but there's a chance that Jeff Hardy or Matt Hardy probably have CTE at this point because of all the miles in the body.
Oh, without a doubt, and we'll get to that. Trust me, we'll get to that. But it's the thing is here. First of all, and Matt said that Jeff was just a vessel. Was he? I thought you might have just started slipping into a broken Matt promo about how he unleashed one of the 7 deities into Jeff, and it reanimated his body enough to work the match. Thankfully, it didn't go that way. That interview, he tried. He kept put together. But at any rate, I love Matt. I've always loved Matt. I've always had a ton of respect for Jeff, especially after what he's gone through. But guys, I know I'm not the one. Yeah,
Retire.
I'm not
Retire.
I'm not the one to tell somebody else when it's time to hang it up. But I mean this from a place of love. We don't want to see it anymore. We want you to live your happy lives with your happy wives and your happy kids.
You've been wrestling for over 30 years now, both of you. We loved you. You've been with us
still
since our
love you.
childhoods. We still love you. Please stop.
Yeah. Get some yoga in, get some DDPY, recover your body, but please don't get back in the ring.
Because legitimately, I'm worried the next time I'm going to see Jeff Hardy in a few years, he's going to be in a wheelchair.
I think that's very highly possible, especially if he keeps wrestling.
Or worse.
Yeah. So, nobody get the idea. No Outlaw show get the idea to book Jeff Hardy versus Ric Flair. We don't need that kind of cataclysmic event happening.
Yeah. Also, Jeff Hardy said something about the fact that he knew that time for him in WWE was over because of the 24/7 title chase thing that he was involved in.
Yeah, because it's stupid as fuck.
But, again, I'm not.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
But like, going to AEW and doing damage to your whatever.
Well, you got to remember though that this is Tony Khan's bill of goods now is we will give you a lot of money to do not a lot, but you're going to have the freedom to basically figure out what you want to do yourself. And to some people, they can make great things happen. To others, sometimes getting the freedom to do whatever you want is not the greatest thing for business. Look at everything that Jericho's done.
Yeah.
It's so I understand why as a veteran it would be appealing. Rather than having every word of yours scripted and laid out and manufactured and being micromanaged to the nth degree, like to the point where you can't do certain moves because that's not good and it's not part of our system, pal. And
but here's the problem. But here's the problem with Chris Jericho. Do you want a tweet from Chris Jericho?
No, but sure.
Well, I'm going to give you the tweet anyways.
Great.
June 2nd, 10:01 p.m. Chris Jericho, and I quote. For the record, AEW is the best sports entertainment company I've ever worked for, and Tony Khan is the best boss I've ever done business with. If certain talents feel they're undercompensated, maybe you're not as good as you think you are, go elsewhere, please. You'll be begging to come back.
Chris Jericho is really insecure about his job. You want to talk about brown nosing? Chris Jericho's whole face is fucking brown. Chris Jericho's face is like Vince McMahon's and Big Show's ass at Unforgiven 06.
Okay, no.
It is. I mean, what other reason is there to tweet that out? He's clearly working the marks, and the biggest mark of all is Tony Khan.
Well, he's got to make the money.
Yeah, this is all. That's why I don't take Jericho seriously anymore. I don't take anything he says seriously. I don't believe a word he says, except that I believe that he believes that he's the hottest shit on the planet.
Well, yeah, but we need to talk about the real talent and the one that Jericho was referencing and everyone has been talking about. Are you ready?
Let's do this because I'm conflicted about this.
Well, let me give you the timeline of events.
Yes.
For the past few months, Maxwell Jacob Friedman has been having issues with one Mr. Kahn. Those issues stem around pay. Now, here's the thing. Maxwell Jacob Friedman has been with AEW since the beginning. And he's arguably one of the younger talents that has really stepped up and arguably has become a main event player. Like, I think you would agree with that, right?
MJF means more than anyone else except CM Punk.
Exactly. And ironic that those two arguably have the best feud in AEW's short history, but in their history nonetheless.
Indeed.
But that's the thing, is that Maxwell Jacob Friedman has been putting in great work, and he's not getting paid as much as Mark Henry, or Big Show, or Christian Cage, or Chris Jericho, or Jon Moxley, or Bryan Danielson. He's not getting paid as much as other guys who come in from WWE, such as Miro, or maybe Andrade, or Johnny Elite, a.k.a. John Morrison, or Samoa Joe, or the other half of the WWE cast-offs.
And we haven't seen Miro until just this recent Dynamite. He's been off the face of the goddamn planet.
But that's the thing again. Is Maxwell Jacob Friedman worth more than pretty much anyone on that roster besides CM Punk and maybe Bryan Danielson?
I would say that okay, personally, just because of my feelings for MJF and the way that I view him and everything I've ever seen of him has been gold. I have yet to see something of MJF's where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I really care for what he did there. No, everything
Dinner
MJF...
Debonair and Chris Jericho feud.
Okay, that was
more on Chris Jericho than it was on MJF.
That's Jericho's fault. And I will place that solely on Jericho because I bet it was his idea. And you know what? MJF got acknowledged in the New York Times for that. So he clearly is still more important. He still made that work.
Plus, the other thing, too, is that Maxwell Jacob Friedman was on the losing end of that feud and still came out
better than Jericho.
Got better.
Yeah. And now, so that's why I say this. I personally believe that MJF deserves Punk money. That's my opinion. And that's solely my opinion because he's AEW's homegrown, the only one of AEW's homegrown talent, so allegedly, that has made it to this level of success. You gotta pay your homegrown boy.
That's because let's look at the other homegrown. Sammy Guevara is what Sammy Guevara is at this point, which is just a mid-card heel / babyface that is going to injure himself to the point where he's not going to be able to wrestle in 3 or 4 years.
Right. Page has just been on top, but he's still on his rookie deal.
Well, even that, Adam Hangman Page is not compelling whatsoever. He can't cut a promo.
No.
He doesn't have any sort of good gimmick with him. His wrestling is Young Buck at style-esque.
Yeah, and speaking of, the Young Bucks flame petered out real damn quick.
Right. I'm mentioning the other 4 pillars. You get Darby Allin, who, is good, but again, he's a mid-card babyface that doesn't cut interesting promos. And his matches, if you watch them, can fall apart real quickly.
Depends on who he's working with.
And then, if you look at a guy like Jungle Boy, there is the potential, but at some point you got to reach it. Otherwise, it's just potential. It's not actual wrestling.
Yeah, I've kind of given up on Jungle Boy. I think the Jungle Boy should have separated from Luchasaurus a while ago, personally. I mean,
Because now he's absorbed all the bad habits of Luchasaurus.
yeah, and what would have been nice is if you had Jungle Boy separate and be with Christian, so Christian could just cut all his promos for him. And, you don't need to have him be a world's champion, but tell me that Jungle Boy with Christian, like 6 months ago, or maybe even earlier than that, maybe a little bit earlier than that, maybe like 9 months ago, Jungle Boy with Christian beating Sammy Guevara with, let's say, Chris Jericho, because they were still the Inner Circle at the time, to win the TNT Championship.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that MJF, of all those guys, is the best promo easily. And he's not only a good wrestler, but he's a safe wrestler. There's never been any issues with Maxwell Jacob Friedman injuring anybody, which for AEW standards is pretty good.
Yeah, that's a big part. That's a big thing. He's one of the safest there is. He's one of the best there is. He gets all the subtleties. He understands all the subtleties. And that's the thing. It's like he is a student of the game.
But the thing is that the student of the game wants to be paid. And that's the thing, is that they've been negotiating whether or not he should get a pay raise or not. Now, Maxwell Jacob Friedman's contract is not over until 2024, supposedly in January.
Right, rookie deal. He's still on his rookie deal.
Which doesn't make sense, because when did he sign his deal with AEW? In 2019, 2020?
Yeah.
So 5 years for a contract?
Well, obviously Tony saw the value in him, but not enough to pay him major money. Because Tony didn't know who he was going to be able to get.
But wrestling changes so much. A 5-year deal for a guy that young, yeah, that's great and all, but I mean, what happens if they develop better or worse in that 5-year span, especially given who has come in and is making more money than MJF and not as high on the card and not as good?
Well, I will akin it to sports, which is where I know we've lost Josh again, but I'll akin it to sports. In the NFL, you have a rookie deal, right? And your first 3 years, you go and throw over 4,000 passing yards each year. You're making killer stats. Your team makes the playoffs for the first time in like 10 years or whatever. You get that guy, right? You get that special guy. You've signed him to a 4-year rookie deal. You get to, let's say you get to the Super Bowl in 2 years. What happens to that rookie deal for that quarterback who made their team to the Super Bowl?
It's still a rookie deal.
It's still a rookie deal, but in today's NFL, what happens is then the talent goes, no, I want more money. And I'm more valuable to be on more money. And they can decide whether they want to pay him or not. And they are well within their right to not if they want to keep him on that rookie deal. Now, most of the time, the NFL recognizes that losing the morale of your head quarterback or one of the most valuable key players in your position is worth restructuring a contract for. And they usually give out the money when it's somebody who's valuable enough to be maintained. So I don't really see this as a different situation. I think Tony Khan is just oblivious to the fact that the best thing that Tony could possibly do is offer MJF a restructured contract. Because if it is, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Sky, but if it is, like Tony said in the media scrum, where every single pay-per-view buy, there's been more buys and more buys and more buys, and they got late buys from this because they stayed on an hour later, because that was the whole strategy that he got out of a Brady Games catalog. And if it's really true that you're getting all of these increased revenue and this increased pay-per-view buys, then where's the justification to not pay him, especially because you're the son of a multi-billionaire? What's the justification for not paying him? You just don't want to pay him.
You don't want to pay him. And this is the wrong guy that you don't want to pay. Now, let's get to the events of the pay-per-view. Maxwell Jacob Friedman was supposed to arrive on Saturday in Las Vegas to, I believe it was Caesar's Palace.
I think so.
He was supposed to go to Caesar's Palace and attend an AEW fan convention where he was advertised to attend and was supposed to do autograph signings and personal picture appearances. And you want to know what Maxwell Jacob Friedman was doing?
Booking a flight back to Jersey.
Well, yes, but you want to know what he was also doing?
Saying, if you don't pay me, I'm not showing up.
No, he was at the Monterey Bay slot machines.
Well,
He was in a different casino doing slots.
well, if you don't want to pay, I'll just waste your money. That's a great heel move.
He's like, if you don't want to pay me my money, I'm going to get my money on my own.
Yeah. And
Now, AEW had to redeem these appearances, personal appearances, and autographs was $100 a person. So
that adds up.
Yeah, so if a person wanted to see MJF, they didn't get the chance. You were either given the chance to see a different wrestler or get your money back. And supposedly, this looked very unprofessional to AEW because they had a booth set up. They had everything ready for MJF to be there, and he was not there.
Well, I don't necessarily think that... How do I put this? This is kind of where I start getting conflicted because it is an unprofessional move, but it's also an incredible heel move.
It is.
It is. It's genius.
It's not, but it's not with the fans that MJF is trying to be a dick to. It's to AEW.
Yeah, and I think both would get pissed off, which I think MJF doesn't have a problem with, because if Tony Khan is not getting the picture of why MJF is wanting this money, then he's literally just as manipulatable as the fans, so he's going to piss him off until he gets what he wants.
Right. Now, here's the thing, is that Maxwell Jacob Friedman on the day of the pay-per-view was there, but he did not show up for the production meeting. He didn't show up until basically an hour or two before the show was to begin.
I don't necessarily think that he's in the wrong to do that either.
Which, I mean, at the same time, it's like, if you have the first match of the show and you're not there until an hour or two there, that's a problem.
Well, remember when the Clique just all decided they weren't going to go to Indianapolis because they're like, oh, we're on strike because no one's listening to us and everything's going crazy. So MJF just not showing up until a couple hours before, that isn't even the most prima donna thing that wrestlers have done.
True, plus he was professional and did do the match and put over Wardlow.
Yeah, and looked tremendous doing it. He was professional in the ring. When he needed to be professional, he was professional. You can't knock him for that because he knows that if he didn't do that, his credibility is automatically diminished.
Right. But then we get to Dynamite. And the part that everybody's talking about is Maxwell Jacob Friedman coming out to no music. Comes to the ring, and the first thing he says is, yeah, I'm hurt, I'm tired, but I'm going to speak to everybody right here, right now, and I'm going to speak as Maxwell Friedman, or Max Friedman.
Yeah. And this is what I like about this. It's not like when Roman Reigns did his leukemia promo, and is like, my name is Joe. He's like, MJF, I've always been Maxwell Friedman, but I'm talking to you as Max Friedman, and you still understood what he meant by that.
Right. Now, I'm sure everyone here has seen the promo. I sent you the link to the promo. Sean, what did you think of it?
First of all, you're not the only one who sent me a link. Abizzle, who does not follow wrestling other than his friend bringing him. We've had some interviews of him recently. He sent me MJF's promo. So even casuals are hearing this. And here's the thing, right? I liked... MJF is a consummate master classman of linguistics. You feel the energy. You know he means what he says. Every time that you see it in his eyes, you know that he's telling his truth. Right? It may not be, when he's being a heel, but you could tell this was pretty intense. But were there not echoes, and especially considering who came out after the promo was cut, were there not echoes of the 2011 pipe bomb?
Forget echoes. This was basically that meme of, hey, can I copy your homework? Yeah, but change it around. That way you don't look like you copied it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's a worked shoot, but man, I wonder how much Punk and MJF talked about this promo before he did it.
Yeah, again, it's almost like he hit it's almost like a mark practicing doing the CM Punk pipe bomb promo in his basement, which I'm sure you did, Sean.
Yeah, I feel unnecessarily attacked by that statement, but okay.
I mean, to be fair, I've done it too. But that's the thing, is that MJF was basically going out there and cutting the promo of every Mark's dream.
Yeah. It was... And
Now,
it's
of course,
amazing
MJF
because the
doing
crowd
better
was
than us,
obviously
he's more talented.
insanely into it. The crowd was so insanely into it. And Max did a great job, and I don't know if we're going to see Max again after this for a while. I think that Max might, if he hasn't already, get a hold of Vince, see what Vince is willing to offer him, and he's going to try and play both sides of this table. And
but here's my thing, is that Maxwell Jacob Friedman, when he was cutting this promo, he cut it in the style of CM Punk's shoot promo, but he would not have been allowed to even go out there if him and Tony Khan didn't come to some sort of understanding.
See, that's kind of what I suspect as well. But I also don't necessarily think that MJF was fully disclosed on Tony Khan as to just what he was going to say while he was out there. I think that this was more of like okay, we're getting closer to a deal here. I'm going to get you more money. Why don't you go get some stuff off your chest? And I don't know how much Tony Khan, at least in the work shoot environment with Punk, like Vince McMahon's a big boy. He can handle it. It's like, you go say what you need to say, and we'll just take care, we'll move on. This is good business. I don't know if Tony Khan is of that same mental capacity to where he wouldn't actually get offended by this.
That's a fair question to wonder. Now, here's something I wonder about. Now, here's the thing. You listened to the promo word for word, right?
Yep, I listened to the whole thing.
Now, obviously, you already said that what MJF was talking, the way he was talking, his demeanor, his attitude, his intensity, even though he kind of did the Miz thing of always screaming really, really fast and hard all the time, that Joshua complained
Some
about.
of his choice of words I thought were also quite eerily similar.
Right. Like, again, it's like taking the best of Miz and CM Punk's promos. But when it comes to what he was saying, how selfish did you feel? Like,
in what way?
because remember, when CM Punk was doing his promo, yes, he was complaining about his position on the card. But he also said, I'm just a spoke on the wheel. Vince McMahon's empire is still going to turn, and he's still going to make money beside himself. Because people are gland handling, like Johnny Laurinaitis, by the way, still there.
Still there and still doing
Stephanie.
exactly what he complained about.
Yeah, when CM Punk was doing his promo, it was because the big evil Vince McMahon and his cronies are going to continue making money because they're going to keep giving you the same shit.
Yeah,
Maxwell was talking about himself.
Well, yeah, because this was Max, because this is about Max. Punk at that point, he was upset, but he was more airing out grievances about the company in a way that was getting people to pay attention to it. But like the whole thing about like when Punk was like, you are a bigger part of me leaving as anything else, MJF kind of did that. Like, oh, look at you cheering me right now. I was like, wow, that sounds familiar. And here's the thing with MJF, I believe he deserves Punk money. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve Punk money. However, this is an interesting way, if they are going to do this worked shoot, can MJF be a heel after this?
I don't know.
It's hard to say. Because this was about as babyface of a promo as you could fucking get.
Well, I don't know, because the whole thing with Maxwell Jacob Friedman is, yeah, he complained about the quality of wrestlers, WWE guys coming in, which are complaint. Maxwell is speaking for fans like you and me that don't like AEW. And he's hating on the people that do like AEW. So there's still going to be that heel thing of, yeah, he's speaking for certain people that don't like the show, but the people who like the show are not going to like Maxwell.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see what MJF's involvement is going forward. I don't think we see him for a while.
That's probably fair.
And if I'm wrong, then we'll know that the fix was in and that they actually had come up with a sound agreement.
But here's the thing, is that, yes, Maxwell also didn't have the limitation that CM Punk had of cutting his promo without swearing, because Punk did all of that stuff without swearing.
Well, and that's the truth, and MJF didn't, which Bill Apter, of all people, Bill Apter was incredibly upset of the language that was used, saying things like, there are children who watch this show. I don't condone that kind of language. I am Bill Apter. And
Thank you. But here's the other thing, too. When CM Punk was coming in his promo, he was coming in against Vince McMahon, one of the most hated individuals in wrestling because of his tactics. And people legitimately were tired of Vince McMahon's booking for the last 20 to 30 years.
yes.
MJF was cutting the promo against Tony Khan. So does that mean that Tony Khan is about to become an on-screen character?
I hope for all of our sakes, no.
I could very easily see Tony Khan appear at the top of Dynamite next week to address what Maxwell said. And this is going to build to a feud between Maxwell Jacob Friedman and people that Tony Khan selects to fight for him.
But here's my thing. Tony is going to, if he ends up being on screen more, he's going to lose a lot of support, I think. Because he's not good at it. We've seen that from the promos that he cut on Impact. He's not good at media coverage. We saw that in the Pros Media scum. And we've seen that multiple times from quotes that Tony has made.
When he made that announcement about purchasing Ring of Honor on AEW television.
Yeah, the Forbidden Door, the Forbidden Door announcement. Oh, god damn. It's just, here's what I hope comes out of this, right? I hope that they quote-unquote fire MJF, right? They quote-unquote fire him. Max goes away. He gets his contract from Tony, first of all. He cuts this promo, but then they're like, no, you're done. You get cut. You don't see him for like 6 months. He shows up for Full Gear, and everyone freaks the fuck out. Because at this point, what would make MJF hotter? Because you've basically made the point where he's cut the pipe bomb that's going to turn him babyface. Whether it's gradual or whether it's all at once, this to me shows that Max is about to be a babyface. That the heel piece has come to an end, and it just so happened to be that real life events have been what have been the catalyst for that. You let him sit for 6 months to make people really miss him. When he comes back, the people go unglued for whoever he chooses to fight.
Well, you know who it's going to be, because it's going to be CM Punk.
And it could be for the belt.
By the way, in this whole scenario, just think about this for a second. MJF is the CM Punk. Tony Khan is the Vince McMahon. Does that make CM Punk the John Cena?
That makes CM Punk Triple H.
No, because, well... Oh.
Yeah! That's right. That's right.
Yeah, you're right, because we can't see Cena anyway, so whatever.
This ought to be... You know what? That I would be interested in seeing. If everything goes according to what we've just laid out, I will watch that. Guaranteed. But
Same.
either he's
Now,
going to
here's the
just
thing.
continue being on TV and we'll all know that this was just a bunch of jabberwonky, or we're going to see him on Vince's television, which I prefer not to see, because you know who his first feud would be?
Kevin
Miz.
Nash.
Miz.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
Right. Now, Sean, are you ready for the final piece of news?
yes.
Well, it's the biggest news. It's the baddest news. It's the best news in the world. It is the release of new music from two of the hottest artists in the industry. Sean, tell me those names.
Well, Sky, I will be glad to give you those names, and I got to admit, you caught me off guard here. You caught me off guard. That was quite a transition, because that is newsworthy. It's always newsworthy when hot, fresh, new music comes popping out the oven and onto streaming platforms everywhere, because it's time. It's time. It's springtime, and you know what that means. It means a new era in entertainment has arrived. AB Production CT is proud to drag you out of the superficial monotony and overproduced, oversimplified modern musical mud pit with two industry-busting artists springing into action and taking the world by storm. Abizzle and Knux deliver an avant-garde approach to music that blends elements and instruments of a wide number of musical styles, including but not limited to hip-hop, R&B, jazz, funk, rock, house, EDM, and so much more. It is high time for the music industry to be shaken to its core, so be a part of the foundation-breaking movement by supporting aspiring artists. And right now, you can catch the latest release, the single from Just a Bit More, available October 14th, 2022, courtesy of Knux, the single called Live As One. A song for anyone who might be tying the knot, or anyone who's looking to tie the knot, or anyone who just loves a woman, or somebody who dreams of one day loving anyone that they want to love. Doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what they are or what they identify as. Love is love, and we all gotta live as one. So that is why we have released Live As One, courtesy of Knux and Abizzle. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, all of the programs that you're looking for, SoundCloud. You can find it on, I believe, we have it on Bandcamp, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure it'll pop up on iHeartRadio now that it's there. There are many other venues and accessibilities that you can grab this new single. And of course, stay tuned, as I said, October 14th for the entire album. But we've got a lot going on there, and the only way you're going to find it is if you look for Abizzle, spelled Abizzle, or Knux, spelled White space Knux, on SoundCloud, Apple Music, and Spotify for this and the entire AB Production CT discography of over 100 songs and projects, including, but not limited to, Retreat, Mixed Bag, Verses from a College Grad, Bear Min, Recovering, Rest Stop, The Wax Apocalypse, and many more. All just a short click away. The link is in the description. Come join the entertainment revolution with AB Production CT.
See, now, I may have surprised you with that transition, but you nailed it beautifully.
Well, because there's, back prior to the meme that became the RKO out of nowhere, where somebody just turned around and bam, there's Randy Orton, or maybe it was a counter like Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 31. There has always been a way to smoothly transition into that picturesque, hit him in an instant diamond cutter. And that diamond cutter put away many opponents to the point where I think a few necks were hurting after the move. And that's kind of how I want to transition us, because Dallas is important for this topic. Our topic today, an hour and 13 minutes into the program, is the physical toll on wrestlers' bodies. There's a lot of things that we celebrate about professional wrestling, but one of the things that we don't talk enough about is just what it does to these individuals. And truly, Sky, the kind of injuries that have pervaded professional wrestling are not only very expansive, but are also very generationally different.
Well, it's because ultimately wrestling depends on the style. Like we talked about before, there's lucha libre, There's Japanese strong style, American wrestling style, the technical wrestling style, powerhouse, monster, small guy, high flyer, you name it, it's done.
Yep.
Every style is different, and the amount of damage that's done, well, just depends.
It just depends on who it is, the kind of training they have, the kind of other influences on the body. Definitely factors in, which is why we had so many seasons of Dark Side of the Ring and premature deaths, which have all permeated professional wrestling. And there's a couple that I just want to touch on here because some of them are remediable or at least somewhat reversible, and others have an impact on that individual's life for forever. You know, whether it's...
But let's address something real quickly. Professional wrestling is a contact sport.
Yes.
You're going to have injuries. It's not... Even the best workers can still get hurt.
Yeah. And sometimes it's the best workers who get hurt from means that weren't even related to wrestling. You know, like as in Magnum TA with that major car accident that ended his career.
Right, or Randy Orton injuring his shoulder by taking out the trash.
Yeah, or the boating accident for Brutus Beefcake. Or Pillman's accident. You know, that's a lot of external factors, right? That doesn't really have to do much with the actual business itself. But you could talk to pretty much anyone who has ever wrestled ever. And they will say, you know, you got to remember, folks, that people are taking bumps on wooden boards with a little bit of padding on it. That's what they're taking bumps on. This isn't just like, it's not pillows.
And sometimes it's not even that. Like if you go to some of the really, really outlaw mud show things, you're wrestling literally on mud.
Yeah, or the even worse, you're taking bumps on a hardwood gym floor. And, you know, that's just no fun for anybody. You know, it doesn't matter who it is. And honestly, injuries can happen at any time, anywhere. We saw it at Backlash. Matt Hardy just had his hand in the wrong place at the wrong time for Jeff Swanton, broke his hand. You know?
Or Jeff Hardy getting his bell rung.
Or Jeff Hardy breaking his leg. Or no, it was taking that back bump on the steel stairs. Remember that at Lockdown? I think it was.
That was terrible.
Yeah, where Jeff Hardy just thudded onto the steel steps in 2016, I think. But he hit hard, you know, and sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not. You know, it's one of those deals, and that's just the physical side of wrestling. And with today's modern style of all the flips and the hurricanranas and the cells and that, there's so much fewer margin of error for a lot of the stuff that people do nowadays.
I mean, Jim Cornette has talked about it. When it comes to wrestling, the guys in the territory days, they had bumps they could do that they set themselves. And like, we're going to try and do it the safest way we can so we can do this for as long as we need to make money.
Yeah. And there were a lot of older guys who took fewer risks in the ring, but then they compensated for that with drugs and alcohol and getting into bar fights. And that's another factor, the physical toll that is taken on professional wrestlers. You have to mention the drugs with it, because the drugs have been as synonymous as the physicality of wrestling, and a lot of the drugs that these wrestlers have been addicted to are a result of numbing the pain that professional wrestling provides.
Like, well, for example, it could be anybody. It could be Eddie Guerrero.
Yep.
It could be Crash Holly.
Yep. Mike Bennett.
Mike Bennett's another one.
Yep. And, I mean, the story that countless wrestlers have told about the wrestling locker rooms where you could just shake a bottle of pills and there's 6 people at your door going, what do you got, bro?
How much you got? How much you got? What do you got for?
Yeah. And so, you know, that's the way it is. I mean, all the click stories about the muscle relaxers and the somas that have just become legendary now. I mean, you can't say that all of that drug shit and everything that was done there with the alcohol isn't a reason why Scott had an early death. It's
and not only that, but was fired multiple times for those drug uses.
Yeah, and it's not even, and I'm not trying to isolate Scott. Obviously, there's a lot of names that fall under that category. Perry Saturn, another one who got on the wrong side of pills, and that was after he stopped a rape in 2003. He got stabbed. Did you know that?
I heard about it.
Yeah.
It's one of the wilder stories.
Yeah. Absolutely. He was trying to stop a rape and he got stabbed, and then he got addicted to pills after that. Janetti, another one. Sheik, for Christ's sakes. How Sheik's heart's still beating is beyond me.
Because I am the Iron Sheik.
But
and I will live forever. Fuck Hulk Hogan.
But look at him. But look at him now. You know, he could barely move. He can't move. Pretty much. He gets up, tweet Baba, and that's it. and
another thing, he's one of the success stories. Because he's made it to his 80s. And it's hard. It is. But Iron Sheik made it there.
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't.
Yeah. Let alone the innumerable names that have died prematurely. I think mostly because they take so many bumps that it just fucks up their heart rhythm. And secondly, from all the drugs and all of the, just the kind of lifestyle you live, even the most straight edge people. Triple H, for Christ's sakes. We almost lost Triple H recently. And he was a guy who took care of his body. But
although we know about the steroids.
Well, yeah, but everyone's going to say that doesn't count in the grand scheme of pro wrestling, but it really does, and that's actually another good point. The amount that steroids played into a lot of these people. Hellwig. I don't think Hellwig would have died if he wasn't just a giant up loaf of bread in the 80s. And
the thing is that you can take the drugs when you're young, and they're still going to come back at you. Sometimes quickly, sometimes long term.
Yeah.
But it's going to come back at some point.
Yeah. And, you could look at a lot of people who had that. And that's the difficult thing, which is why I admire Dallas so much. Dallas Page, that is, for having the wherewithal to be like, look, I blew my back out, but there's got to be a way for wrestlers to heal. There's got to be a way for something to at least slow this down. Which is why the yoga has really taken off, especially with the success stories of guys like Jake and Scott, and now the countless wrestlers who practice DDPY.
Yep, Diamond Dallas Page. We'll talk about him in a second, but he may have more contributions to wrestling outside of the ring than inside the ring. Yeah.
As far as like helping wrestlers in a practical way when their careers were over and even while their careers were going. And he's helped people beat those demons and the addictions that professional wrestling inherently ties itself to. And you had mentioned William Morrissey. He had a major alcohol problem at least, and he went to Dallas's and got better and is still wrestling on Impact, but he got better.
Well, he's out of Impact now.
Well, he's somewhere, but he got better, I think.
Yep. Again, the toll on the body is just, some of it's everyday life, some of it is just wild stuff happening, and some of it is just professional wrestling in general. Can we stop it? No. But as CM Punk once said, this is professional wrestling. This is not ballet.
It's not ballet. And
shit happens and people get hurt.
Yeah, remember that match with Jericho, and he was called Neville at the time, when he tore his hamstring, I think?
No, he tore his ACL.
Tore his ACL, that's right. And Robinson and Jericho kind of got into it for a second.
Because Jericho knew that he had to cover for the fact that Neville had a torn ACL. You couldn't wrestle on it. And he kept trying. He's like, we got to call the match. We got to end this.
Yeah, it was, and that was just a freak happenstance. And that does, it happens sometimes. I mean, look at draws. That's one of the real unfortunate ones, but that's one of those cases where you go to look at it and go, well, the guy's alive and he's lived a surprisingly happy life since that moment.
Yeah, but again, and this is for people everywhere, take care of your bodies.
That's right. As best you can, because you never know when your body's going to decide to fight back.
Yep. And speaking of the bodies, though, We need to talk about two bodies that wrestled a match.
Yeah, and thankfully, and maybe it was because of one of those members that DDP hurt so bad that he formed the yoga program to begin with. Roll that intro.
What time is it? It's the fight, it's the brawl, it's the match of the week. It's tonight, watch along with the son of a beat. It's one fall, the down for the 1, 2, and 3. So don't stall, hang on to the edge of your seat. We got a punch and a flip and a powerbomb too. All the moves and the stars are all under review. See the baby face cheered and the heels get heat. This is wrestling at its peak. It's the match of the week.
That's right, folks. It is the match of the week. We have got a WCW match, which we have not done many of. You know what the last WCW match was that we reviewed, Sky?
It was a Hulk Hogan Scott Hall match.
Yeah, yeah. So I figured we needed a bit of an upgrade. And I know that, Sky, you probably don't consider this much of an upgrade, given the participants involved. But...
Well, one of them. Because one of them sucks.
That's right. It is Halloween Havoc 1998. Arguably WCW's last really good pay-per-view. Diamond Dallas Page versus the unbeaten Goldberg for the WCW Championship. This was an 11-minute match. Your impression, Sky? I know that Goldberg's your favorite.
Absolutely not. This was simultaneously the best performance and the worst performance I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas, I've seen a lot of Diamond Dallas Page. I've seen a lot of his work. I loved his feud with Johnny B. Bad, which we're going to talk about in more depth a little bit later. I love this feud with Johnny B. Bad. I loved his feud with Savage. I was really happy when he got this title match, especially because I don't think he had won the world title yet. No, yes, he had. Yes, he had. He had once. It didn't last very long, but he did win it.
We can talk about his history later.
Yeah, but in any case, Dallas and Goldberg, this is the most that anybody got out of Goldberg. And Dallas was surprisingly really good at covering up how bad that Goldberg really was.
I mean, if it was not evident in the William Regal match, it was evident in this match.
Well, to our eyes, yes, but to the fans' eyes who were still ogling the phenomenon that was Goldberg, not so much. They just liked the fact that Goldberg was over.
Yeah. Now, Tony Khan apparently must be getting his lesson from WCW booking, because didn't this match air the day after?
Yeah, because they ran out of time on the pay-per-view block. So maybe that's why Tony got so offended about that Eric Bischoff comment, because he felt too similar.
Because he books like Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, well...
Have we seen Tony Khan and Eric Bischoff in the same place?
No, but Bischoff's been on AEW before.
Wait, hold on. Halloween Havoc had 12 matches on it?
Coincidence? Did we get a collar and elbow tie-up in this match?
Yes, but it didn't start the match.
Actually, it did start the match, but we got 100 of them.
Well, we got 100 of them, but there was a lot of just like...
It was a lot of...
I don't know what you want to call it.
It was always a lot of feeling out of a lot of stopping and starting. Goldberg asserting the power. Dallas being a little bit quicker and showcasing it. I did like the when Goldberg charged at Dallas and they both went through the middle ropes. That was a good spot. And then Goldberg started doing moves.
Moves?
If you can call them that.
Them?
If you can call them that. He did a...
Goldberg should never do any MMA ground submission stuff ever.
He did a quote-unquote toss that Dallas just randomly took a bump for. He did a quote-unquote armbar, which looked ineffective and uninteresting. And we'll get to the second. That was the first armbar. That doesn't even talk about the second armbar that even Mike Tenay dumped on. There was a lot of flying out of the second rope on this matchup because Dallas was taking as much time as he could to showcase as much as he could out of Goldberg. But I noticed this guy. This crowd was actually surprisingly divided about this match.
Well, this was two baby faces feuding with each other. And because it's two baby faces, the crowd was going to be split on them.
Was it just me? Or did the crowd more like Dallas than they did Goldberg?
I mean, there's a reason why. It's because the more naturally talented guy is going to get more over.
Everything that Goldberg did sucked. Everything that Dallas did was fantastic. His swinging neck breaker was good. Dallas's, that is. And then Goldberg did his own swinging neck breaker, and that was ass. Then he did a worse arm bar where he literally tucked Dallas's arm like underneath his armpit in the way that his arm naturally bends.
Yeah.
And Tenay's like, he really ought to be moving that towards his chest. And when Mike Tenay critiques your wrestling, that's how you know you are bad.
When Mike Tenay says you should do better wrestling, that's how you know you're bad.
Yeah. But then Goldberg... Go ahead.
Continue. No, you go.
Then Goldberg made up for it by selling... They did the the crucifix hurricanrana to the head scissors, and Goldberg sold that head scissors like he had just been DDT'd, and he literally did a headstand and toppled to the mat. It was one of the most ridiculous sells I've ever seen.
Why is it that guys are trying to do lucha who shouldn't be doing lucha?
Well, it's fine for Dallas to throw a hurricanrana if Goldberg knew how to sell it.
Well, Goldberg doesn't sell it. He just takes the bump and then immediately does a shitty super kick to his chest.
Yep. Standing side kick. That one didn't concuss him, thankfully. We didn't even talk about concussions in our topic, but we'll leave Christopher Nowinski to that, because that's honestly a topic in and of itself.
Yeah. And again, Goldberg is just like, why are you trying to do all these things? Like, you're doing lucha stuff. You're doing MMA submission stuff. You're doing the super kick. Like, this does not fit your style of wrestling that you should have.
Well,
Power wrestler, slam wrestler. Don't try to do the fast, exciting stuff.
And Goldberg's response to you, Sky, is that he charged for a spear and hit the ring post, which is Goldberg's biggest rival in professional wrestling.
Goldberg versus the steel post.
That ring post has gotten the better of Goldberg more than any human being ever has. That's a fact. That is a fact.
Now, we've talked about Goldberg a lot. Let's talk about Dallas Page for a second. This match really showed how good Dallas Diamond Page is, because he's one of the smoothest guys I've ever seen. The way he transitions between moves, it's just chef's kiss.
Yeah. And he worked hard for that at an old age to get into that. But he understood psychologically, he understood exactly what he needed to do to make this match viable. I mean, I loved that hip toss into the DDT. That was awesome. And then not being able to go for the cover, waiting, selling it out, drawing it out to get the fans more excited. Dallas knew what the fuck he was doing.
Yeah, it's just this match didn't have a lot of selling because Goldberg didn't sell a lot of things.
Because he didn't know how. And but there was one thing he did sell that I appreciated. Goldberg spears Dallas, and Goldberg goes down and sells his shoulder, which had been the focal point.
He sold his stomach,
which was his shoulder. Didn't you hear Tony Schiavone, Skylar? It was his shoulder.
Thank you, Tony Schiavone. I'm convinced that Tony Schiavone was never good in the first place.
Bobby Heenan is a master craftsman, just like MGF is. So MGF. Maxwell, give me money, Friedman.
I was going to say Gerald, but that's even better.
Oh, man. So Maxwell Goldberg Friedman.
No.
And
No, do not disperse the name of Maxwell Jacob.
I will disperse whatever I feel like. Anyway, so we get Goldberg goes for his, and I saw this spot coming a mile away. Goldberg goes for the jackhammer, can't hit it, goes for it again. Dallas turns it around, diamond cutter, biggest pop of the match. Because for a split second, people believed that Dallas could beat the streak. And that was exciting for a lot of people. And Dallas took forever to get to the cover, which was perfect because Dallas was selling like a champ. 1, 2, and Goldberg was so fast after that 2 count to get his shoulder up. And I was one time, I'm like, oh, come on, milk that just a little bit longer.
Just a half second more.
Yeah, it would have made it that much better. I mean, it still got the pop, but not the pop that the diamond cutter got. Dallas goes for another one, and then we get a jackhammer, and that's it.
That Goldberg almost dropped Diamond Dallas Page.
Yep. Somehow still got it. And
this wasn't even an 11-minute match. This was a 10-minute match. And afterwards, Goldberg is starting to turn purple.
And the crowd was starting to turn disinterested.
I mean, it was half cheers, half boos.
Here's my controversial statement about this match. I think, because of just the way that this match went and how over Dallas was and how kind of over Goldberg was, I kind of understand why Nash felt that it was time for the streak to end. Because I think that Nash was probably hearing what I heard, which was that the crowd was not as into Goldberg as they wanted. He made it to the top of the mountain. He beat Hulk Hogan. And then what?
The problem with Goldberg is that he was only interesting with the streak, and everything after the streak was boring.
Well, and I think here towards the tail end of the streak, I don't think people cared about the streak as much. Because this was more of a display, I think more than anything else, that while Goldberg was still over and he was still cheered, the shtick had grown old. People had seen it.
Oh boy, did it grow old.
You know?
And this is also one of those situations with Diamond Dallas Page being more popular. Maybe he should have won the title here.
Well, you almost think so. But I don't necessarily blame Nash for ending it. I mean, I do blame Nash for being conceited enough to be like, nah, I'm going to do it. Who's getting the streak? Me. Why? Because I'm booking. and then, of course, but that wasn't even the problem. His problem was the finger poke of doom shortly thereafter. But this match was fine. Dallas is great. Goldberg exists. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it was a good finish, but you could kind of see that Goldberg, there was only going to be so far you could go with Goldberg before you had to figure out something else for him to do.
Yeah, but we're not interested in talking about Goldberg. We're interested in talking about his opponent.
Yes, and that is our spotlight today, is Diamond Dallas Page. Now, we're going to go through, because I'm sure you have all of our information ready for us here, Sky. We're going to go through his in-ring career, but then I just want to touch a little bit on what he's doing now and what he's done over the past decade or so as well.
Well, here's the thing. Do you know about his life before his career?
I know that he was a bouncer at a nightclub and a strip club.
No,
for a little
manager.
While. That's right. He managed the strip. He was a bouncer and then he managed it. Then it was, who is it? Dusty and Flair came in and saw him.
He was part of the AWA.
Right.
Working with the AWA. Who was running the AWA at the time?
I mean, it was
1988.
1988. I mean, it was still Vern, but it was nowhere near what the AWA was at that time. But it was still Vern and Greg, as far as I know.
Anyways, the point is that Diamond Dallas Page, he had a regular life. He came into wrestling very late. Like, hold on, I'm doing an age calculation. Give me 1 second. He was 32, 33 when he came in?
Which
as
is
a manager
old.
in 1988 as a manager.
Yep.
Managing the Diamond Exchange.
Which he did a good job with.
Yep. He managed Colonel De Beers, his most famous client, Kurt Hennig, Medusa. This was a really interesting stable.
Yeah, and it was also a weird time for WCW as well.
Yeah.
I mean...
He even got a chance to, by the way, work in Florida with Gordon Soley as a color commentator.
Yeah, and I've heard a little of Dallas's commentary. It's not that good.
Yeah, no wonder why WWF didn't want to do anything with him.
Yeah, well, that wasn't even the Oh, you mean with Soley?
No, with Diamond Dallas.
Yeah, with
Page.
Dallas.
He tried to get a job as an announcer with WWF, and it didn't work.
Yeah, he was much more suited for being a manager and much more suited for cutting the promo rather than trying to call the action.
Yeah. Now, the thing is that Page was still... When FCW, or Florida Championship Wrestling, went out of business in 91, he went back to his work with the club business until Dusty Rhodes saw him and said, "Baby, come with me. Come to WCW, and I can make millions of dollars with you, baby."
But not in the ring. Just as a manager. And that's when he got put together with Diamond Stud, which was Scott Hall.
No, the Freebirds.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about his run with the Freebirds. But that was...
Jimmy Garvin and Michael P.S. Hayes.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was the Hayes and the steroided as fuck Jimmy Garvin. The late iteration of the Freebirds. Not the full-blown Freebirds of the early and mid-'80s.
Yep. They won the NWA World Tag Team Championships. He also had a road manager named Big Daddy Dink.
WCW, folks. It was an interesting time. That's right. Jim Herd's WCW as well. We're talking the Jim Herd era here.
Yep. And then he added Scott Hall, a.k.a. Diamond Stud.
Yep. And that worked. But then Dallas started itching to wrestle, and Flair turned him down. He said, "I'm not training you because you're too old and it's not going to work. By the time you need to know what you need to know, it's just not going to happen." And Dallas said, "Fuck that."
And then went to Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty Rhodes said, "Oh yeah, I'll train you, baby. I'll train you to be the best wrestler in this building, baby."
But who he really learned from was Jake Roberts.
Yep, Jake Roberts has always been DDP's best friend, so that's why DDP has always been associated with him, because he really got a chance. If it wasn't for Jake Roberts, DDP wouldn't be who he is.
Yeah, Jake was the one who said, "I will really train you as far as what you really need to know and how it's going to work and how to take care of people." And a lot of people didn't believe him as a wrestler because he was a good manager, but it really, I think, was 1995 when people started paying attention to Diamond Dallas Page.
Yep. Now, here's a fun thing. 1991, Starrcade, his first wrestling pay-per-view debut. Want to listen to his debut match?
Let's hear it.
Him teaming with Mike Graham, losing to Bill Kosminer and Jushin Thunder Liger.
That is a very interesting card and a very interesting team.
It's also Jim Herd, early 1990s WCW.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Graham is great because he was the son of Eddie Graham, as part of the Florida territory. He wasn't necessarily he wasn't setting the stadiums on fire with who he was and how it was done, but he knew what he was doing. He was a good enough wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, Jushin Thunder Liger is a legend, and Bill Kosminer is a football player that they turned into a wrestler.
So there were two people who knew how to work, only one of them the American style. Dallas was green, and the football player, I imagine, was green. So I can't imagine that was a great match. Yeah.
It was not. And here's a quote from Diamond Dallas Page during his time working in 91, 92, 93, 94. Quote, "Bischoff gave me the job. I was a good example of work ethic, passion, and someone that cares about the business. Since they wouldn't really book me, I went down to the WCW power plant every day I wasn't working. That's how you adapt to adversity. Even when I started to make it, I still kept going back until I was on the road 260 days, a years plus. I was still going to the power plant. For 5 years, I went there because that's how long it took me to get to the top.
Well, and Dallas, when Dallas is determined to do something, by God, he's doing it. That's something you've got to give that man credit for. His ambition is through the roof.
Yep. And that's the thing, is that Diamond Dallas Page is arguably one of the hardest workers in the history of wrestling. Now, let's get to 97, because that's when he really takes off.
Well, I would argue that he starts to really get over as a wrestler before that. Because while his feud definitively with Savage is what put him on the map as a major star, people were buying him much more as a quality mid-card talent in 95 when he feuded with Johnny B. Bad, the guy known as Mark Marrow, who went to WWF and got powerbombed by Sable and never recovered. But in 95, he was a quality talent. He had a good look. He worked well. He had the mullet. He had the great heel. Dallas, I think, was the heel. Johnny was the face. And they had a feud that lasted for months. And people really started acknowledging that Dallas Page had earned his stripes. And this guy was quality on this roster.
Right. And he won his first championship, the WCW World Television title. And again, him and Johnny B. Bad, that's a feud that if you go back and watch, there's a lot of good stuff in it.
Seriously, folks, if you have the chance, it's an underrated feud, but it's definitely worthwhile to take a peek at.
Yep. And then, of course, he goes on to lose to the Booty Man and loses Kimberly, a.k.a. the Booty Babe, in a Loser Leaves Town match.
Thanks, WCW.
Thanks, WCW. But then he comes back, he feuds with Billy Kidman, but let's talk about the real feud.
Yeah.
The real feud that gets him over.
Well, the NWO has arrived, and not only are they there, but they've recruited Macho Man Randy Savage, and he and Dallas Page spend at least half of 1997 cutting the best promos, having the best matches. I would say they have some of the best matches of the entirety of WCW. Between, at least as far as a mid to top mid level match. Savage and Page put on some matches that were incredibly memorable.
Right, and this was at the point where fans were starting to get behind Diamond Dallas Page as being a true out-and-out WCW guy against the evil NWO.
Which they needed, because all they had was Sting, and Sting wasn't talking to anybody. He was just up in the rafters. And Luger was huge, and he was over, but you could only go so far with that. You only had so much fluctuation you could get out of Piper. And so they needed somebody who was more homegrown, from the bottom up. Somebody who could rise to the occasion for WCW instead of an established name who was just coming to WCW's defense.
And not only that, but Diamond Dallas Page was relatable. He was likable. People liked Dallas Page because, again, he's such a great promo talker. Listen to Diamond Dallas Page and the way he talks. He talks like a regular guy turned up to 11 that you just want to spend time with. You want to hang out with. You would love him if you had the chance to talk and hang out with him.
Yeah. And here's a fascinating story, right? Because where Dallas really became big was when they offered him an opportunity in the NWO. And he puts on the shirt, there's hugs, he shakes Scott Hall's hand, turns Scott Hall, diamond cutter. Ducks Kev, diamond cutter, gets the hell out of there. And shocks the world, and everybody cheers, and he rips off the shirt, and Diamond Dallas Page is made. What's fascinating about that story is that segment, Sky, was originally supposed to be 12 minutes. Then
Really?
They get to the arena, and Bischoff says, you have 8 minutes. Okay, fine. Then, half an hour passes, the show's going on. Bischoff goes to him again. You have 4 minutes. Okay, let's cram everything that we were going to do into 4 minutes. They go out there, they do the segment. 4 minutes ended up being exactly the amount of time they needed. It got the point across, and Dallas became a superstar.
Because that's evidence that milking time for everything does not work.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to get in and get out, and that's the best way to get it done.
Because 8 minutes is not that bad. Had you drowned that segment out for 12 minutes, people would not have cared.
Yeah. And if this were WWE in 2022, that segment would have gone on for 15 minutes with 2 commercial breaks.
Oh.
Yeah. But thankfully, that was not to be. So Dallas ended up feuding with Savage in a series of classic matches. And the more that Dallas was used, the more that Dallas fought the NWO, the more that people really got behind him. To the point where I would say that 1998 was the year of Diamond Dallas Page. I mean, everyone wants to say that Goldberg was the big thing that came out of 98, and yeah, he was. But the other success story in WCW at that time was DDP.
Right. And in talking about this feud, he feuded with Curt Hennig, and I implore anyone to watch his feud with Curt Hennig, especially with the United States Championship on the line. That's a mid-card title feud that you can sell people on.
Yeah. And also, I remember the matches being pretty darn good.
But again, it's Mr. Perfect and Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah. But even still, I mean, we were saying it before in the match with Goldberg, like, Dallas knew how to work, but he was really coming into his stride here in everything. As far as his execution of his work, the facials, the body language, the promo, he was really hitting on all cylinders come 1998, to the point where he had that match with Hogan, Karl Malone, and Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
And then feuded he was in that match with Jay Leno too, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dallas, but you know what? That was major matchups. He had gotten to the point where he was, if not main event, he's working with Hogan. From a guy that nobody wanted to train because he was too old, to main eventing matchups or working a top card level with Hulk Hogan.
And April 1999, Spring Stampede, in a fatal 4-way match, Diamond Dallas Page defeats Sting, Hulk Hogan, and Ric Flair for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. By the way, that match's special guest referee was Macho Man Randy Savage.
That's right, because he and Hogan were still on the outs. Which they always did forever.
And what did they do? Right when babyface Dallas Page becomes champion, they turn him heel. Now the fans are starting to boo him because the fans are fickle.
True. But also a lot of what Dallas had done at that point, to be fair, he had that same gimmick for the past 3 years. And I'm sure that he felt that it was time for a change. I honestly don't hate his heel run. He had I forget the name of it. It was like the Jersey Shore or whatever they called it. But of Dallas, Chris Kanyon, and Bam Bam Bigelow. Which on paper is a hell of a faction.
Yeah.
But it's 99 WCW.
Yeah, but then that's the thing, is that in 99 WCW, he became the victim of booking. He lost and won the title back from Sting in a single show.
Yep. He sure did. And this is where Dallas started to feel a lot less important. But it's not Dallas's fault. This is Vince Russo, and then Bischoff and Russo, and then everybody else who got involved.
Yep. And even in 2000, he became champion again. It's just...
He's the one who lost to Arquette. Never forget that. Diamond Dallas Page is the one who lost his title to David Arquette.
I mean, that kind of basically killed him. I mean, he stayed in WCW until they were fought out, but...
But that also killed the company, too. That wasn't even just Dallas that got hit by that. That was everybody.
Yeah. And then WCW, Time Warner gets bought by WWF. And what do they do with Diamond Dallas Page?
WWF looks at WCW going, oh, you think you're going to fuck this man's career up? Hold my beer. I'm going to stalk The Undertaker's wife. Why? Because reasons.
He did it because he wants to be the biggest dog in the yard.
The amount of sense that doesn't make is...
Like, you could have just attacked The Undertaker and not... I mean...
But that wasn't the point. Remember, that wasn't the point. It was about humiliating WCW. That was all that was. That was all that was. Because Dallas should have premiered. If you want to premiere Dallas in a meaningful way against The Undertaker, that's one thing. But that wasn't the point. Look at the matchup that they had after this. The steel cage match of Undertaker and Kane versus Page and Kanyon, where Page and Kanyon get the teetotal shit kicked out of them. It was about embarrassment. It was about breaking you down. You're wrong for being WCW, you piece of shit. And that was the whole thing. And unfortunately, Dallas was probably the one who got hit the worst out of the bunch with that.
And then he became a motivational speaker.
And then we started getting we started really getting Dallas Page's real personality. Which, honestly, I didn't hate this, but they weren't going to take Dallas seriously. They weren't going to put him in a match of consequence. He had a match for the European title in 2002 against Christian at WrestleMania 18. That's all I remember.
Yep, he won the title against Christian, and then he lost it to William Regal.
Yep, and then he left.
Well, what happened was that he was drafted to SmackDown when they did the WWE draft lottery thing, and he got a very, very bad neck injury from a botched superplex involving Hardcore Holly.
Well,
and that's, again, injuries, freak accidents, they happen.
Yeah. But this was a big part of what developed Diamond Dallas Page's true calling in life, I think. And that's DDPY, DDP Yoga, which is a program that takes elements of professional wrestling and blends them with elements of yoga into a full-fledged cardiovascular full-body workout and stretch that builds your mind. I'm not trying to just cut a promo on them, but I do practice this DDPY, and I got to tell you, it's pretty freaking good.
I mean, we'll give him the free ad.
Yeah, honestly, he deserves it. He really does deserve it because it is so regenerative for your body. I work outside. I work at a plant nursery. I'm moving stuff all the time. As far as big trees, gigantic root balls, I'm moving stuff. You know, I'm lifting big pots, 10-gallon, 15-gallon pots all the time. And my back is it always is just screaming at the end of days. DDPY has eliminated that pain for me. I do it in the morning, every morning, and I do not have pain during work or after work solely because I've been doing this on a frequent basis. It works, folks. Just take my word on it. It works. That wasn't the point I was trying to make, though.
But that's the thing, is that one of the biggest things with DDP is that, yeah, we could talk about his TNA stuff. I'd rather not talk about his TNA stuff.
It was brief. He fought the Fighting Elvises, and he had a good match with Monty Brown. And then he lost to Jeff Jarrett, like everybody else.
Right. We could talk about some of his independent wrestling stuff, although I'd rather not, because, again, it's independent wrestling.
There's really nothing to talk about. He showed up, did some diamond cutters, and that's it.
Right. Now, he had a couple of fun runs in WWE, like when Heath Slater was wrestling against Legends on the build-up to Raw 1000. It was fun watching DDP back in the ring.
The only thing I wish they would have done would have gotten Jimmy Hart's approval or whatever the rights were that they needed for Self High Five. Because that was his best entrance music.
Yeah. Did he have that when he entered the Royal Rumble in 2015?
No. He still had the it's me, it's DDP, which is fine. It worked. But I wish he had Self High Five. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. But again, DDP is one of these guys who is more known nowadays for his yoga and saving the lives of a lot of guys who really had issues. Like, I know some of it is masturbatory in nature. But again,
yeah, Dallas really loves money nowadays, I've noticed.
I mean, money is money, okay, man? Like,
yeah, I know, but like he turned from having the roots in pro wrestling, which has its roots in the carnivals and the carnies, to becoming a yoga carny. Except what he's selling is legitimate.
Right. But again, Diamond Dallas Page is one of those guys who's just like, he saved Jake Roberts' life.
Yeah.
Jake Roberts was in a bad way, and he saved his life.
Scott Hall.
He took the man, let him live at his house, worked with him on yoga, got his mental health fixed, did everything he could to make things better for him.
Yeah. And then they reached out to Scott, and Scott wanted to die, and they're like, nah, man, let's do this. Let's get you back on track. Let's get you that hip surgery. Let's turn you around. And he turned Scott around. And there's so many wrestlers who now are like, yeah, I do it. I practice it. Goldust. Dustin was another one who worked with Dallas. A lot of wrestlers and even football players now work with Dallas. A lot of people are working with Dallas now, especially after his appearance on Shark Tank, where he got the actual building of the Performance Center. And that was also huge in creating this empire of yoga that he's got.
Right, and I know that we can be cynical about certain things, about how, oh, he's just doing it for the money and all that stuff. It's just like, Diamond Dallas Page legitimately helped save the lives of countless wrestlers who would have died earlier had they not gotten the yoga. And it's one of the most important contributions he has given to the wrestling business.
Yeah.
And for not only wrestling business, but people in general.
Yeah. I mean, Gabriel Iglesias was near death and lost 250 pounds or something like that with DDPY. You know, it's not even just, it's not just wrestlers. I mean, I said, I've been positively affected by it. Even though Dallas, I will have to say this, when you watch the DVDs, you watch them enough and Dallas gets like insufferable. The workouts are great, but sometimes you hear the same thing and the same promos and the same cadence. It's like, all right, Dallas, like, enough.
Well, again, part of it is that I could listen to a lot of people read the phone book, but after a while, I get tired of reading the phone book.
Yeah, exactly. But regardless, all of you who have not watched the resurrection of Jake the Snake, I implore you. I don't care if you like wrestling or don't. It's really irrelevant for what this documentary was about and why it was made and how it was made and the impact it has on everybody. Please watch this movie. It's an incredible movie, and it really showcases just how transformative Dallas really is for wrestlers who've put that heavy toll on their body. It's almost like Dallas became that place where, hey, you need help, you come here. We'll get you better. We will make you into a better person, into the person you want to be. And the fact that Dallas had the wherewithal and the business strategy to know how to do that and to come up with a way to do that to help people's lives who, in miraculous ways, people who were thought to never be able to walk again without assistance are now in the best shape of their lives because of DDP.
It's truly amazing what he's done inside the ring, and even better what he's done outside the ring. And for that, we thank you, Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing.
It's him. It's DDP.
Yeah, that's right. And hopefully he's one of my bucket list guys to meet. I would love to meet Diamond Dallas Page and just talk. 5 minutes. 5 minutes of Dallas's time is all I would like. But we will have to say.
All you have to do is ask him.
That's right.
Ask him.
You know what? We'll reach out to him. This is the official Ask Diamond Dallas Page. Come fly us down to Atlanta so the Court-Martail podcast can have an interview, talk with you, and thank you for your contributions in person. But while we're waiting for his while we're waiting for that response, it is time to take our first commercial break. Next week, Sky, if I am reading this correctly, we have got the regular show. We just have a regular show. I thought we were a little bit ahead of ourselves, but we are not ahead of ourselves. We are exactly where we need to be. So we've got another exciting show that's going to be coming to you. And you know what, Sky? Why don't you build the show next week? I did my week. Now it's your turn.
Fair enough. Well, here's the thing. How about a territory deep dive?
Ooh, I could get in on that. So,
and where are we going to go? Perhaps to the Mid-South.
Okay, I will definitely watch some Mid-South.
Because I want to do the territory deep dives. I want to get into the history of territories, and one of the ones I'm interested in is Mid-South because it's one of those legendary promotions that I haven't watched enough matches of.
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes of Mid-South. It really depends on what year you're talking, what kind of enjoyment you get out of it, because definitely different people did different things. But I'll tell you what, we'll watch a few episodes. Here's how we're gonna do this, folks. We're gonna watch a few episodes of Mid-South from a few different years. And we will not review every single match, but we will come up with what we have felt. We have gleaned from what we can ascertain from what we've seen of Mid-South. Good, bad, and indifferent. We'll give you a perspective on what Mid-South Wrestling was, why it was successful, and what we like, and does any of it hold up in today's wrestling standards. I think that'd be a lot of fun, Sky. That's a great idea.
But the only way you're going to find out what episodes we talk about, what matches we watch, and what we're doing the next time is to like, share, and subscribe to the Court-Martail podcast and get ready for this exciting episode.
And we will bring that episode to you in a week's time. But until then, folks, we will be right back.